by the Arabs because his entire life had been one exemplary life, not only of ability, but of love of his people and a desire for righteousness and truth. And of course, the Arabs were extremely savage people at that time. Through his character, the strength of his character, he married a woman who was 25 years his senior, whose name was Khadijah. She was one of the most wealthy individuals in Mecca. She was a widow. And she married Prophet Muhammad after he had worked for her on her caravans, managing her caravans for some time. And he went from being an orphan, which he was when he was born, to being one of the wealthiest men in Mecca. At the age of 40, each year Prophet Muhammad used to withdraw into up a mountain, into a cave, where he would fast and meditate and ask the creative spirit why it was that the Arabs were so backward and so ignorant, and what would be necessary for them to be uplifted. And he would stay there many days. On his 40th year, during his 40th year, he withdrew to that cave, and Angel Gabriel appeared to him. Angel Gabriel appeared to him and told him that he was to be the next prophet. Muhammad, being a human being, was terrified by this apparition, ran out of the caves, down the side of the hill, back to his home, to his wife Khadijah, and for 7 days and 7 nights was in a semi-coma. He ran to her, screaming to her that he had lost his mind, that during meditation and fasting, an image had come to him that said it was Angel Gabriel and that he was supposed to be a divine prophet, and he begged her to please help him regain his sanity, as most of us would do if something like that happened. During those 7 days, he alternated between times of heavy perspiration and chills, and Khadijah at one point thought that she would lose him. After that time, he came back to himself, and of all people, her uncle, who was a mystic, a Christian mystic in Mecca, a very respected blind Christian mystic, Khadijah took Muhammad to him, and the mystic asked him, "What did this apparition say to you?" And Prophet Muhammad said, "The apparition said to me, Ikra, Ikra," which means, among other things, to read. And when he said that to the mystic, the man said to Prophet Muhammad, "That is exactly what Angel Gabriel would have said. It is time for another prophet. It has been foretold that he would be amongst the Arab people, and if it would be anyone, O Muhammad, it would be you, O Muhammad al-Amin, most trustworthy one." I will try to come back to that word Ikra before I finish. It's extremely important. Within the word Ikra is also found the principle in ancient Egypt of the blood of Isis. This was the beginning of his prophethood. For then, after that, for 20 years, he would periodically receive revelation, and that is what the Holy Quran of Mecca is. Within it, the other thing along with Ummi Prophet that I mentioned to you is Prophet Muhammad is the seal of the prophets, the S-E-A-L. Now, most Muslims will say that means that he's the final prophet. There will be no prophet after Prophet Muhammad. This is the perfected religion. There is no other religion. Anyone that deviates from this is not truly in the light of God. In that way, you find Muslims who are as, what is the word that eludes me for, as dogmatic as Christians and Christian fundamentalists and Hebrew fundamentalists, and in some ways more so. That's understandable. But if we relax for a moment and we look at the word seal, we'll also realize that not only does seal mean the final, but there's another kind of a seal. Like, for instance, in ancient times, if you received a letter that had the king's seal, or a prince's seal, or the seal of a loved one, they had rings that were seals, and you would have wax on the letter, and you would seal it. You'd seal the letter, meaning to show the authenticity of the letter, right? So if you look at Prophet Muhammad as the authenticator of the prophets, that other meaning of the seal of the prophets, you begin to see something very interesting. particularly since he says that all al-Islam is the confirmation of all the divine prophecy that had been received before, which is not only Judaism and Christianity, but goes back to what Imhotep received, goes back to what the great ancient Kemetic prophets received. And so in that way, Prophet Muhammad is the authenticator of also the great ancient Egyptian sciences, as I hope to show you today, and is more deeply shown in my book. Next slide. Once again, it is clear that for thousands of years before Judaism or Christianity, we were practicing the science of the soul, that the ancient Kemites were most proud of our science of the soul, not the architecture and the other things. I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. This is a depiction of Ani, the brother with the goatee. On the left here is, this is his spirit after he has died, and he is entering into the afterworld where his heart is in a jar being measured against Ma'at. Next slide. In this regard, Osiris, who is the lord of the underworld, this is a very interesting depiction because you see the garment that Osiris is wearing is a very interesting garment because it's multi-breast. Those are nipples of a breast all over his garment, which indicates that Osiris is also a mother. The male and the female principles are there. There's no such thing in our great ancient science as the male without the female. And I think if I speak about just being proud of our tradition and our culture, that the role, the balance between the masculine and the feminine is that which I'm most proud of. That our civilization gloried in the conjunction of the masculine and the feminine, in the individual, in relationships, and etc. So that Osiris, who is the great ancestor, represents also the pharaoh. He's wearing the crown of the pharaoh with the upper Egypt and lower Egypt represented in the back and the front, and that this crown over thousands and thousands of years represented an ascendant spiritual master who also had temporal power. Next slide. Our great crown is still being worn by an individual in the world who represents spiritual ascendancy, supposedly. But if you look at the different crowns that the Pope is wearing, I think that any honesty at a certain point from the Catholic Church would accept the fact, admit the fact that he's wearing our hat. He's really wearing our crown. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt still being represented. And the man that sits in that position, because it will be a man, it always has been, and it will continue to be a man, has the opportunity of bringing forth this truth at some point, that the tradition is of spirituality and Christianity is in fact African. Next slide. I just wanted to bring this forward to you to enhance in some ways what the brother was speaking of in terms of the Hebrew religion, that the original depiction of the so-called Star of David is here. This is the most ancient of all of them. That this triangle represented Horus, this represented Set, and the two of them coming together was first done in that way, was then done in this way, and finally was depicted much later in the depiction that is called the Star of David. And it represents the battle between Horus and Set. So a lot of our ancient science is being used against us in some very interesting ways, claimed by other people, and the mystery of the so-called Star of David and the power of it is actually ours. Next slide. This is a depiction of the Kaaba. It's a drawing of the Kaaba in Mecca. And I think once we understand that we ourselves are, Hajar, the mother of the Arabs, was in fact an Egyptian, and once we listen to the Arab depiction of the life of Hajar as opposed to what is written in the Bible, we begin to see an altogether different picture. The Arabs state in their ancient mythology,